Hello everyone and welcome to the channel Talitha Coom. My name is Patricia. I hope you enjoy and get something out of today's video, and if you do, consider subscribing, sharing the video, and following me over on Instagram at Talitha Coom Ministry for more content. I must ask that y'all pardon the more drab atmosphere. It is currently storming outside, so you might hear thunder from time to time, but that's what happens when you're in the middle of August in the middle of Florida. Hurricane season! Previously, I made a video discussing why it could be a prudent idea to create a list of red flags, a list of things that, should they come up when you are dating a guy, make you pause and consider whether or not that is actually a healthy and good relationship. That thunder was perfectly timed, I might add. I listed off a plethora of traits and habits that could and probably should be on such a list. Some obvious, others not so much. As I thought about that video and reread the lists, both the one that I had made for that video specifically as well as my own personal list, there were a few bullet points that stood out to me as quite subtle, but at the same time, very concerning. Red flags that most of us may not have ever been taught to recognize. Issues that are difficult to define because once you bring them up, they can easily be twisted into making it sound like you're crazy or judgmental. Thus, today I'm going to be discussing 5 very subtle red flags, what they are, how to identify them, and at the end, how to approach such issues. Mind you, this list is not exhaustive. I am merely putting the 5 most important subtle red flags to me. And on a final note, while I did make this list with romantic relationships in mind, elements of it certainly could apply to friendships as well, though none of it is to make you paranoid about every single relationship you have in your life. Just bear that in mind. When I say isolation, I don't mean self-isolation, nor do I mean simply being an introvert. Rather, I'm referring to when a guy isolates you from your friends and family, or his friends and family. Because it is one thing to want some alone time together, but quite another to sneakily trick you into being alone with him a lot and make you feel guilty for spending time with friends and family. What does isolation look like? Maybe it's a long distance relationship, and whenever y'all are video chatting, he seems to get upset if other people are present in the room, either side of the conversation. And upset doesn't necessarily mean yelling either. It could just be moping and pouting. He makes a big deal about others being present during some of y'all's conversations, when in reality, sure, you want alone time, but you just wanted him to meet some of the people you love from your life, or you wanted to meet some people from his life. Perhaps not in a long distance relationship, he doesn't like it when y'all go to social gatherings, meaning going beyond just, ooh, I'm an introvert, I can only handle so much. Basically, if people you care about are involved, he gets upset because, again, he really needs alone time with you. In fact, he might even make you feel guilty for wanting to spend any time with anyone but him. And on the flip side, getting to know his loved ones is difficult because he purposely pushes them out of y'all's relationship. Point of context on that last note, obviously if there's a difficult situation such as he doesn't really know his family, there was abuse involved or something, foster care system, I don't know, there's other things, then yes, that's understandable why family wouldn't be involved, but this should speak for itself. You have to read his mannerisms. This goes beyond, oh, there's difficult family situations or you live far apart. He actively doesn't let you around them. In general, isolation is trying to keep you alone with him, or just alone in general, and keeping you away from yours or his friends and family. Why is this bad? Because it's probably a sign that he is trying to conceal his true colors. Because if people who know and care about you got to spend more time with him, they may start to notice things that you don't see, nor does he want you to see. And keeping you from getting to know his friends and family means they can't share anything about him either. Alone time in a relationship is absolutely necessary. Of course, it's a good thing in general, but isolating someone is sketchy and dangerous. A good man will absolutely let you have that needed time with your loved ones, and in addition to that, will want to introduce you to his loved ones as well. And he will also be ready to embrace whatever others may say and think about him, because even though everyone does have their flaws, his true self should dispel any concerns others may have. Nothing is ever his fault. This is a huge one that, unfortunately, is becoming far more prevalent in today's culture in general. Victimhood mentality, blame shifting, not taking responsibility for one's choices, refusing to persevere and push forward, and even possibly getting upset when someone suggests practical steps to help, wanting everything to be given for free. Now, not everything is our own fault. Outside forces, i.e., other people's choices, do have an effect on our lives. So when is it a red flag? When is it blame shifting? Take notice of how often it is and in what kind of situations. Has he been fired from several jobs, yet not a single one of them was ever his fault? Listen carefully to how he describes those situations. Does he, even when he might sort of admit that he was at fault for something and feigns some sort of guilt, manage to still throw it on someone or something else? Essentially saying, yeah, I guess I was wrong, but they practically forced me. Worst of all, when he maybe does something that hurts you and you bring it up because you want to clear the air and have an open way of communication, somehow, by the end of the conversation, it's your fault. You feel guilty. You did something wrong. You provoked him. You were being judgmental. And it hasn't happened just once, but multiple times. If, like me, you are an empath, yeah, you're gonna have a higher tendency to fall into this danger zone. Just saying. A good man will take responsibility for his actions. He shouldn't have to feel shame 100% of the time. No, of course not. But he does have a well-formed conscience that recognizes when maybe he could have done something better. He has the humility to admit his wrongdoing and not throw someone else under the bus. And he doesn't lack remorse when it's called for. Naturally, just to note, this goes both ways. No one seems to really know him. Look, plenty of us would say we really only have a couple super close friends and maybe a few family members that we're truly close to. You can know and be decent friends with plenty of people, but really only have a good connection to a handful of them. That's normal, and also not at all what I'm talking about. He doesn't have close bonds and/or has a history of not being able to keep them. What do I mean? He keeps his family at a distance, even if he lives with them, because it could be emotionally speaking. Maybe he has one kind of true close friend, but everyone else, it seems to be superficial or really only at a surface level. A lot of, oh yeah, that's that guy that does that thing. He seems pretty cool. Or, yeah, I know him from such and such group that we're both in. He seems like a nice guy. But beyond that, nothing. Maybe you even begin to notice that he has a ton of former close bonds, lots of falling outs. So many stories about people he was really close to, but they all left him, abandoned him. He doesn't have close bonds because no one truly gets him. Except you, of course. Sounds creepy, right? Note that if he is exhibiting this trait, he may also be practicing isolation on you as well. Now sure, everyone has friendships that come and go, that's natural, but there's something disturbing about the idea that whenever someone gets close to this guy, they leave soon after. You have to ask why. And of course, if you're sensitive, you're gonna want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but he may have already led you to believe that you are making a huge impact on his life, especially if he's told you a bunch of those woe is me sob stories. Look, I'm all for being kind, but in terms of a relationship, this is not welcoming the outcast. It's manipulation and it's creepy. A good man can hold decent relationships and he doesn't have to tell a bunch of woe is me stories to get your attention. He doesn't need to befriend the entire world. It's not possible. And frankly, if he does seem super popular, it's probably superficial friendships. The kind of man you want is not gonna pull the whole, no one loves me, the whole world is out to get me, and that's why I'm so lonely, baloney. But rather, shy or outgoing, has the ability to form deep bonds and keep them. He drains you, intentional or not. Now we are shifting more to things concerning you and less about specific traits or habits of his. This one does not automatically mean he's a bad person, but just how you work or don't work together. What I'm talking about is not you being an introvert who does need to be alone from everyone at times. I myself am an introvert, and there is a big difference between being drained because of people interaction in general and being drained because of a specific person. No matter the context, there are certain persons that leave me drained just by virtue of their character. I don't know why. This can most definitely be true in either dating or friendships. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with a guy that you can pinpoint as a dangerous red flag. It's just that something about his energy drains yours. Nothing is going wrong per se, you just notice that when you are with him, you have to exert extra energy and you always wind up tired. This could potentially be a sign of something being off with him, or just you don't work together. Don't try to force it, be honest with him and communicate that, hey, you're just not into him. And the sooner you do that, the sooner you're doing him a service because you're leading him toward his true vocation, which might be with a girl that doesn't get drained by him. Something in your gut is saying no. This one is tricky, to say the least. In my experience though, most women, and possibly men have something similar, I don't know, we will, on a general scale, get a bad feeling about certain guys. Even if you don't have a specific reason as to why you don't feel like it's a good idea to be around this guy, something in you is being tipped off nonetheless. Listen to it. But what does this gut feeling mean? Perhaps you can't narrow down what it is, but the thought of pursuing a romance with him just feels wrong. Your gut or heart, mind, the Holy Spirit, something in you is whispering, hey, don't pursue this. Something has shifted in your stomach that makes you feel uneasy around him. Again, maybe you barely know him and thus you really can't figure out what it is. Here's the thing though. You are in no way obligated to date anyone for any reason. It doesn't matter if nothing, at least on the surface, is wrong. You don't want to continue? Okay, then don't. It's as simple as that. And you shouldn't feel guilted into dating someone either because, well, he's nice and he likes me. For one thing, that gut feeling is there for a reason, but even if he is an innocent dude, as I said previously, you're doing him a service so he can get to the girl that will like him sooner. I know. This can be confusing, especially if you're worried that what's going on is an irrational skepticism because of previous bad experiences you've had, in which case I recommend praying, asking him good questions, and getting a trusted friend involved. But even if you can identify these issues, how do you approach them? The final two I believe are easier than the rest because they most likely will arise very early on and you can just tell the guy, hey, thank you so much for your time, I appreciate your interest, but I'm not interested. Now, if he pokes and prods after you've already made it clear that you don't want to continue, well, that's a different kind of red flag that he's not emotionally mature enough to take the blow and move forward. He doesn't need further explanation. You told him you weren't interested. That's enough. As for the other three, they are much tougher. For one thing, if you're noticing that one or more of those things is an issue, odds are you are pretty invested in the relationship at that point, that it's not one of the first few dates. Additionally, those three red flags tend to intermingle with one another. Someone who can't hold decent relationships is more likely to isolate you from people he knows because he fears what they might say about him. And he's far more likely to blame the entire world for how his life has gone and for his lack of friendships. These three things just tangled together and it's messy. The best thing I can suggest is actually a scriptural approach, but this will make sense even if you're not faith-based. Just hear me out for a second. This is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 18, verses 15 and 16. If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault, between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. But if he does not listen, take one or two others along with you, that every word may be confirmed by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. Now, in context, there's other things. This has to do with like someone in the Christian community, committing some sort of like really bad sin and you want to help them and, help them get out of their plights. And if they don't listen, you bring other people who are also noticing it, then you bring it to the church and blah, 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 blah. So that's in context, just so you're aware. But when I read those first 2 verses, I thought that kind of works for this too. If you believe one or more of those first 3 red flags is an issue, bring it up to him gently, kindly, open communication, and gauge his reaction during and after. Because hey, it could be possible that it's not at all what you thought and you understand what was happening and he doesn't try to make you feel guilty for bringing it up in the first place. Or it's not as bad as you thought, he didn't realize what he was doing, he apologizes, he's genuine, and his behavior changes. But maybe he gets super defensive and pouty. Again, woe is me. He tries to make you seem crazy by gaslighting or make you feel guilty. Or he feigns remorse, but the behavior continues. In either case, it's not good and you need to get outside help. Try to think if you have a super trustworthy family member or friend. Even if isolation is the issue, try to find a time to voice your concerns to them. Ask them if they can pay attention and be a witness. It's very possible that they may have already seen this issue and will back you up immediately, or they will begin to watch and agree with you that it is an issue and be able to back you up if you need to approach it again. And when I say back up, I don't mean that you literally bring them with you everywhere and y'all gang up on him. What I mean is emotional support in case it doesn't go well or you get gaslit. Because odds are if it's going this direction, the relationship is gonna need to end, and therefore you're going to need that emotional support when you inevitably get gaslit, guilted, chewed out, gossiped about, the whole shebang. Now, it may not be that dramatic, but you'll want the support either way. Now, just some final thoughts to wrap everything up here. Like I said in my initial red flags video, I don't say any of this to make you paranoid or judgmental, just aware. Most of us don't want to hurt another person's feelings, or many of us have felt that we will never get a shot at being with someone ever again, so we seize the opportunity. Avoiding a conversation because you don't want to have conflict or possibly hurt their feelings, or because you don't want to end up single for the rest of your life or something like that, is not worth settling, or worse, a lifetime of being mistreated. Please, just trust me on this. Hopefully most of you will never come across any of these 5 subtle red flags in your dating life. I sincerely pray you don't. But if you do, stay strong. You are not crazy. You are discerning and aware. It's all about how you handle it and gauge how he handles it too. Thank you all so much for watching. I know that was kind of a darker, more sensitive-ish topic, I suppose, and the atmosphere certainly played into it. It stopped raining finally, but this video is going to be a bear to edit because I had to record things multiple times because there kept being loud cracks of thunder and dogs, lots of dogs. Let me know in the comment section below if you have ever encountered any of these red flags and how you handled them, how you came out of them. I think people would like to see that kind of encouragement too, I would imagine. You don't need to give personal detail. I would actually recommend against that, personally, but you know, just throwing that out there. Once again, if you did enjoy this video, consider subscribing to the channel, sharing this video with maybe some people who need to hear it, and also following me over on the Instagram. All of those links will be in the description, but that does it for this video. God bless.